Well, welcome everybody, back after 1 week hiatus, and from the crowd, it looks like you missed it. We're glad to be back. So, anyway, Ken will be coming up in just a minute to do the lesson, but let me first ask you a question. 2 weeks ago, we voted as a class to donate a couple $100 gift card to Jim Gregory, Mary Ann and them. They've been struggling a little bit. Does anybody know who was gonna be responsible for getting that gift card to them, or even how to get it to them? I'm not thinking about that. I'll probably write a checkbook today, and I can make the check out to whoever might be visiting, but
I'll be glad to do that.
huh?
I'll be glad to do that.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll give you a check for $200, and you can just go get the gift card and get it to Jim. All right.
I thought we
Yes.
decided just individuals sending them a gift card.
That was circle.
That was circle. Okay, sorry.
Okay. All right, do we have other announcements today? Anybody that needs to share?
Yeah, we checked on the Sims Barbecue Molasses Festival. It's October the 12th. We're gonna go as a class. It starts at 9 o'clock through about 4 o'clock. It's $3 for the Molasses Festival. It's $16 to go in. They usually start serving at 5. I talked to the gentleman, he said probably because they're gonna have a crowd, they'll probably start serving at 4, 4:30. During the day, they will have barbecue sandwiches, hot dogs, and hamburgers to buy during the festival. There will be intermittent entertainment on their outside stage throughout the festival before they go inside and start performing, you know, for square dancing and that type of thing. I did not ask, and I cannot remember, but I would suggest you bring cash just in case, rather than charge cards.
They always accept cash.
They always accept cash, yes.
I mean, that's only.
But the only thing they kept, so bring cash, but it's $3 for the festival, $16, which includes tea and water for the buffet on the 16th. I'm thinking we could go at 12 or 1, want to make molasses, take your long chairs and enjoy the fellowship and be outside and do some of the and listen to some of the music. But I told them that we would have between 30 and 35. And he said that's fine. That it's difficult for them to reserve a place, so we'll just get in line together. Those that want to go and eat at the festival, and then we can go in and try to sit together inside. But
So what time would you think we?
I would say go between 12 and 1. You can go anytime you want to, but
So we would go, we would just travel separately?
Yeah.
Okay.
anybody that has not been there and needs directions, it's an easy place to find. It's in Dudley Shoals, North Carolina. It's across the river, but it's in Dudley Shoals. It's not that far from here. It might be, say, Granite Falls, but it's Sims Barbecue.
42nd annual?
42nd Annual Molasses Festival, that's it. Yeah. But it'll be a fun time. They will make molasses that day, and they will have them for sale. And they also serve them when you go through the line. They always have molasses on the tables to eat with your corn fritters and whatever else you get that day. Okay.
All right, thanks, Roger. Dan?
Just want to mention that, probably most of y'all got your, bulletin or whatever that thing is that they send out every now and then relative to what's going on in the church that came out this week. Most of you probably know that the, organ is in bad shape,
Who is?
Organ.
Oh, yeah.
It needs extensive repair. It hadn't been repaired for many, many years. And, we received several bids to take care of it. And again, many of you probably know, and many of you probably don't know, that it's gonna cost in excess of $60,000 in capital increase. Darren Lell, in that, bulletin that came out this week, suggested that maybe we initiate a plan to get some money to take care of it. He suggested we buy a key, and he felt like if everyone buys a key, it would take care of the money, believe it or not. A key costs $350. So I'm just suggesting that maybe we give that some thought, and hopefully we can get that order repaired without spending a ton of money otherwise. Frankly, we'll have to raise some money somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, other announcements.
Marcia's having surgery Thursday. Thursday. There she is.
She disappeared.
At Baptist.
All prayers appreciated.
There she is.
I don't know, at our age, we talk about those things there, but do we? All right, I'll turn it over to Ken.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning. So we're gonna start with a hymn this morning, Amazing Grace on 378.
Verses 1 and 4.
Verses 1 and 4.
Just for it.
378, 1 and 4, 1 and 2.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Thank you, Marcia. Good morning. It's interesting, the last time I talked about service to others and the fact that everyone in this room really provides service to others. Really following and if you will, the thoughts that we all have about our religious beliefs and our values and our mores and things that we were raised with, and the idea that helping others is a way of helping ourselves. Today I want to speak about something else. Today I'd like to speak about angels without wings. So do we have any angels in the audience? You know any angels? Does anybody know any angels? I don't see hands. Anybody know angels? I know a lot of angels. A lot of them are sitting here. So that's kind of what I want to think about today. And first I want to start with a prayer, if you follow me. Father, in your wisdom, give us the vision to see the impact of just one solitary life on another, and the growing vision to see this multiply in our lives and in those that bring service to us and those that we service. Amen. Also would like to read, Charles Wesley wrote a lot of hymns and did a lot of writing, not only for Methodists, for others. And I like one of the poems that he wrote. As you know, I like poems. Help us to help each other is the title of his poem. Help us to help each other, Lord, each other's cross to bear. Let each his friendly's aid afford, and feel another's care. Up unto thee, our living head, let us in all things grow, and by thy sacrifice be led, the fruits of love to show. Touched by the lodestone of thy love, let all our hearts agree, and ever towards each other move, and ever move toward thee. This is the bond of perfectionness, thy spotless charity. But let us still, we pray, possess the mind that was in thee. And I thought about what I talked about last time, and I thought about the fact that Monday is Labor Day, and we all have the Labor Day off if we're not working. Many of us aren't working anymore. But most of our lives have been spent working, helping others, giving others wisdom, as we talked last time, doing what we can for other people in other ways in other communities. Today I'd like to talk about a little something different, and that is, how have we gotten here? How have the people in our lives, those chosen people, we all have families that we're born with, that we're given, but we also have families we choose. This is a family, this is a community. We all have people in our lives that we have chosen for certain reasons, that are there for a certain purpose, that have given us a certain purpose, that have made us better than we ever thought we would be, and have helped us in many, many different ways. I personally think of one group of people that really helped me in my life. My mother passed away when I was stationed with the Marines at Camp Pendleton, California. And typically, back in those days in the military, what you would do is you would go to a base and they would fly you out for a funeral leave or leave so you could go home to your family. So I arrived at Travis Air Force Base and they were backed up, one because of weather, but two because they were sending a lot of people overseas to Vietnam. So I had 6 other corpsmen and a couple of Marines take me to Travis in a Camaro. And you know what a Camaro was in 1967, you can imagine how much fun that was. So we got there and I was in uniform, ready to come home. And I was in the best places because I had been called out of the field to come to my CO, my commanding officer. And I thought I was in trouble, but lo and behold, I was told that my mother had passed away. So anyway, this one guy, well, I'll never forget, he was a person above me at HM 285. He was there with me, walked me up to the gate, and the guy at the gate who was doing all the discharges for people to leave on planes said, "We have no planes that are going north, east. We can't get you to the East Coast." And so my friend turned to me and said, "Get in a car." So we all got back in the car. And I don't know if you know where Travis is, but we hit about 120 miles an hour. I was sitting in the back between a bunch of guys. I'm in uniform, my mother's passed away, and I'm thinking, I'm gonna die before I So we get to the airport, and I realized, in those days I didn't have credit cards. I didn't have money. I had change in my pocket. Remember what I said? I went to the CO, I got dressed, I put my uniform on, I went with the guys to the airport thinking I'd go home. I didn't even take anything with me. These 6 guys came up with more money than I've seen in my life, dollar bills, $5 bills, whatever. I mean, it was incredible. And I bought a ticket and I flew home for my mom's funeral. And I've never forgotten that. They made my life better that day. They were an influence in my life that I've never forgotten that kindness. So we as human beings are very unique in that we have an influence in the life force of someone else. And we've seen that in this room, the people that have been there for us, the people that have prayed for us, the people that have been there physically for us. The skill sets and tools for the strategies of healing are so much a part of each of us and what we do, what we say, who we are. I think of my grandfather many, many years ago who said, you know, the only thing contagious in life is a smile. When you smile at somebody, it's very hard for them not to smile back at you. It's kind of like a yawn. If you yawn in a room, everybody else is going to yawn. If they don't, they're probably a sociopath, so you don't know. So, you know, it's interesting when I say that about healing, because long before we had doctors, surgeons, psychologists, psychiatrists, we've been healing each other, being there for someone else other than ourselves. We as humans always search for meaning of life, of who we are, of a constant self-understanding of where we are in life, what phase of life we are. And it's interesting to me that some of the smartest people in the world have always had someone else in their lives that's influenced them. Mother Teresa. Think of anybody who's done anything amazing in their lives. But I remember something that Albert Einstein said in 1950. He said, to be religious is to have found an answer to the question, what is the meaning of life? And that kind of surprised me when I first read it, because I thought, Albert Einstein, you know, the guy who's the science person who wouldn't really believe in like religion. I know Carl's shaking his head because he probably knows that saying. So we all know the simplestness of what human relationships, of being around each other is. Just listening to someone. The strength of a touch or a hug when we need it, a prayer. The blessing of forgiveness for something that somebody has done in our lives, and the ability to forgive them for what they did. And the unique special grace of someone who just accepts who you are without question. One of my oldest and best friends is a guy named Ben, whom Peggy knows very, very well. I've known him for 54 years now. And one of the things about him and his wife, ironically, I introduced him to his wife 50-some years ago. And the one thing I know about both of them is no matter who I am, what I am, where I am, what I've done in life, they accept me for who I am. They love me. And I'm part of that family and always will be. And my family is part of their family. And they've always been there for me in many, many different situations. My best friend Ben's wife died after 52 years. And for the 2 years after that, he had a really, really hard time. And I was fortunate and lucky enough to be there for him. Did I do as much as he has done for me? No way. No way. So in a sense, we all touch each other. We're all there for each other. We have all suffered in so many different ways. And we all know that the wisdom from those experiences of suffering have made us able to heal. And usually there's someone that allows us to do that. We know that listening is a powerful tool of healing. It creates that holy silence. And that means it allows us to hear not only ourselves think about what's going on, but also allows the other person to talk about themselves in a way that allows them to be really heard. And to be really heard is so important in times when times are really bearing us down, if you will. So we've all suffered in some ways. And many times it takes that someone to really assist us in that healing journey. And that to me is an angel without wings. And we all have those in our lives, or we'd like to have those in our lives. We certainly wish that we did. Matthew 25:35-40 is something that I know you've heard before. For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. Truly I tell you, whatever you did for me, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you've done for me. So again, it's the ability for someone to be there for us to be with each other.
We need to stop.
We're talking about angels without wings, and an angel is just coming.
Missed you too, honey.
Tom,
You sit
You
down,
can
but
sit in the
I
king-
wouldn't sit in your chair for nothing. Let's tear it down. Hey, Rosie. Good to see
you
you.
can sit in the throne.
Well, the throne and all the jewels out of it.
Or with your former church wife.
Huh?
You can sit with your former
I'll
church
sit with my
wife.
wife.
That's a joke, everybody, we get if you don't
Well,
understand.
we're remarried now.
That's right.
Good to see you.
Oh, my.
Good to see you.
It's good to see you.
Excuse pardon the interruption, I'm sorry.
You devoted,
Glad to be interrupted.
Yes.
How you doing?
Good.
Good.
to see you.
Y'all pardon me. On with the lesson. I came
I
here
think
a little
Melissa
bit.
just entered the room to tell you.
Must just to see everybody. Marcia.
So, in a sense, we are all messengers for each other. The difference between us and angels are that we don't have wings. But we often carry messages to each other without even knowing how important these words or the messages are. Even without knowing, we play life forward for each other and for others in our lives. Perhaps the world is just one big healing community, and each of us are the angels and healers of each other's. We spend time with each other, and that time is precious. That time that we share with each other, that understanding. There is no experience that we can't share with someone else, because given the opportunity to actively listen to others, we understand that there's no fear that we cannot understand, no suffering that we cannot care about, because we're all vulnerable, because we've all been there. We're all human, and it someday can happen to us. Being alone is the worst thing that could ever happen to anyone. Yet being welcomed by someone else, family or chosen, friend, church member, is the best we can be. Jesus has always taught about service, compassion, and love. That's to us and that's to others. We've all had someone in our lives that has made us better. Better people, better human beings, better spiritually. We've had employees, students, teachers, spouses, and spiritual beings who have helped us along the way and have helped us play it forward. In our church lives, we talk about loving one another, caring for one another, praying for one another, supporting one another. All about others, not about ourselves. These are important principles of our faith and our relationship with God. The Bible teaches that serving God and others is not about doing great things, but about doing small things with great love. The small differences we make in someone else's life, the small differences they make in our lives, make big differences. Think back to the teachers that you've had. Think back to someone that taught you a little bit more about who you are and your own understanding of self, and your own understanding of what life is really about. Our way of life has always held the value of living and letting live, but helping someone else is to live and help others live. Relationships are the primary means God established for learning about His commandments. And so, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about those individuals who have touched us. And I thought I'd read a poem for you to kind of express that. Our paths of life are never made alone. We follow the footsteps of so many. They guide us, they love us, they mentor us, they pray for us. So is it any wonder that some of us are lucky to go together in chosen and given families, with a mom, a dad, a son, a sister, a daughter, a friend, a lover, a partner, all in our family. Knowing all in life begins together with that first step together. So, I want to talk a little bit about playing it forward. And I'll tell you something that is really, really important to each and every one of us, and that is, who in life has been simple question. Who in life has made you soar in life? Who's made you soar? So open that question up. Who's made you soar in life? Who's made you better? Your father. How? Why?
Really nasty, awful job use. So,
It's a hard thing, hard lesson, hard
for
thing.
sure. Walking with it, everybody is. There you go.
But you offer healing to others.
Heck yeah, I do. I do for others what no one ever did for me. Ever.
How about anyone else? Who's helped you soar? Who's helped you make you better?
You meant S-O-A-R.
S-O-A-R.
She said bitter.
Not soar. No. Soar is different. Ask Marcia about soar. Ask anybody else about soar. We're not talking about that kind of, I'm
Did you say
sorry.
bitter or better?
Better.
My daughter. That's a very different
Very good.
situation. Yeah, no, my daughter has made me dead.
Negative and positive.
For
That's
sure.
very true. Anybody else? You, Paul?
Some of you may know the story, but I came from a fairly dysfunctional family, and my swim coach that I started swimming with back in 1964 pretty much changed my life through the years that I swam with her, along with my college swimming coach. And I made her a promise about 30 years ago when she was talking, worrying about what she was gonna do when she got older and needed somebody to take care of her. I said, you don't have to worry about that, I'll take care of you. And so I'm her power of attorney. She's now at Trinity Ridge. She's been out there for 7 years now. And I've been taking care of her, making visits 2 or 3 times a week, taking care of her finances, buying her diamond art. Small churches. You know, so, I mean, you know, that's a payback situation that that's one of the reasons I've coached so long, is that I've always felt like maybe if I was providing a little payback to somebody like she did for me, then I could make a difference.
So that in a sense is, again, paying it forward. You're making a positive for someone in their lives and making a difference in their lives. Anyone else?
My spouse and my children.
Why?
They give you a reason for living. They, pump you up when you're down and, make you very, very thankful for having someone in your life that you count on. My wife and children, put them on the side.
Family is everything. Kathy?
Teachers never know the impact they have, I think, until, we don't always hear that, but I had a teacher, Mrs. Jolly, in the 7th grade, and this will surprise everyone, I'm sure. I was a weird kid.
Really?
Yeah, really. I liked to write, and I would write essays. I would think of prompts that I could write an essay on, and I know that is very weird in the 7th grade, and I would give her my essays. And you know how much grading a teacher would have to do, and she would still read my essays and respond, and if corrections were needed, she would make them. And she just made me love writing even more. So, just someone that likes that spark.
Those of us that know you think that's amazing, by the way. For a 7th grader, that's pretty amazing.
Kathy, I can't remember if, I tried to remember it because I thought it was so good. You said in one of the lessons in the last few months that's about students, and you said students don't really care as much until they know how much you care. Is that?
Students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I wish that was an original quote, but it's one
Well, it's a
that
good.
I've always loved.
It's interesting you said that, because in medicine, there's a lot of different ways of saying that they teach you in school, one of which is do no harm. And the other is patients are teachers. And patients teach us more than we teach them in some ways. And the reason for that is because if we're smart as providers, we listen and we care. But again, anyone else? Yes, Marcia?
other than my parents, the Reverend Dr. Prentice Gordon Sr. He was our minister of 11 years at First United Methodist, Tupelo, Mississippi. He had a combination of compassionate toughness. He was a scholar. He had his doctorate from Emory University. And he was the best total package of a minister that I've ever been associated with. Very influential. Our former bishop, good pastor. Dr. Gordon was his district superintendent. Our former district superintendent, Mary John Dye, served under him. And Mississippi, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, racial matters caused a lot of Methodist preachers to leave the state. He stayed and was a giant and stood for the right things.
I think that's another way to look at it. Who in our church community has helped you play it forward or made a difference for you in your lives?
I think John Christie taught the history of this church. With this church, I believe he taught this church what fully loving your community, and that your brother or your sister did not have to look like you to be your brother or sister. So I really think John Christie modeled that for us.
I think for me personally, Will Posey made a big difference in my life. Will was the person that always gave me an insight as to what I was thinking about, both religiously and personally. And the other person I'd like to mention is Paul Christie. Many of you know I had a bypass at Duke University, and Paul stayed with me probably for hours because they delayed my surgery until late at night. But the interesting thing about Paul is I was nervous and upset. He told me more jokes than I've ever heard. I'm sorry, but he touched me in a way that it made me feel okay.
They probably weren't jokes.
I wasn't gonna say that.
Ken,
Yes.
when we were growing up, and I'll speak for Robert also, and I've told this before, I know that Mother and Daddy put me and Robert in front of people that they admired so that we could learn, whether it be carpentry, whether it be electricity, whether it be welding, whether it be plumbing, made no difference. They put me and Robert in front of both of them, or all of them. And so, when you ask who made a difference, my dad would take us on Friday nights to these places to see electricity being done, welding being done, metalworking being done, carpentry being done. Well, then, talking about teachers, Henry Bruton at Hickory High. Robert and I both had Henry Bruton for everything we could take him for. He could teach you how to do anything with your hands. And so to me, if you talk about a teacher, it was Henry Bruton. Somebody that influenced you was my mom and dad putting us in front of the right people all our life.
That's a huge difference. I mean, to have that kind of experience and understand the different approaches, electricity and plumbing and everything else, no wonder you're able to build your own home. That's amazing. How about someone else? Has anyone else in your life really made a solid difference for you? Or helped you make a difference? Yeah, I'm sorry.
I would just say, for other reasons that I've heard my dad, because he was really tough on us. We were raised strict. We don't act like it now, but when we were little. But, he just was very good at modeling for us how to be in the world. You know, he wasn't loud and he just was always there. People had a respect for him. And he carried himself really well in the business world and all that, and he just was a great role model. And I just, I thought he was pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Being pretty cool is pretty cool.
When you told the story at the beginning about getting on that flight for your mother's funeral, my mind went immediately to a story from our lives of that kind of awful grace of God where you're overwhelmed by the kindness. And in a way, it is a California story too. We were living in the high desert, next to George Air Force Base, not Travis, but George Air Force Base in the early 80s. And we had an infant son who's now here, very much grown. And our family was back on the East Coast, except for my husband's father, who was 75 years old and had extreme health concerns and was living in assisted living close by us in the high desert. After a year of my family not seeing our son, we got on a flight and got to north central Pennsylvania. And after a visit with our family said, you guys just need to take a couple of days on your own. They kept our son, who's just 1 year old, and we set off for Washington, D.C. to see the Capitol for 3 or 4 days. And it was in Washington, D.C. that, this is before email, before text, the communication, we got a phone call that my father-in-law, Rich's father, his health had crashed, and he was in the hospital in ICU. And so we're sitting there in DC, we're a young couple, our infant son is in Pennsylvania, we're a continent away from his father, and our church said, you are not coming back. You finish out, it was like 4 days till we were flying back to California. They said, this is what we're telling you, listen, we're on the phone with them. We have set up a schedule. We will be at his bedside constantly until you return. And I can't even tell this story now without being overwhelmed, as you were, by that kindness and realizing the grace of God in that moment. That there was nothing we had done that would deserve this. And so, I just wanted to share that because it's something you never forget. And when I saw that when you were telling that story about the flight.
Not only that, but I think you hit on, I think everything happened to me so fast, much like it did you, in a way that I really didn't know where I was until I was on the plane heading back east. And when I was sitting on that plane at 36,000 feet or wherever it was, I had this aha that all this had happened. It was that overwhelming sense of grace that it gave me a whole different feeling about life, that there were people there that made my life better and my life different, but more importantly, that they cared about me. And having someone care about you is such a precious gift that makes such a difference in your life. And I look around this room and I see that we all care for each other, that we're here for each other. And that, in a sense, we are a chosen family. We are a chosen community. We are a chosen community that cares. And if you think about what our church has done in reaching out for others and helping others and mentoring others, we've done some amazing things. But this class, to me, and to my wife, and to my family, is special beyond anything I can say. Peggy and I have lived in many different parts of the United States. I've lived overseas, but I don't think I've ever felt as much as a family as I felt with this church and this community. And the reason is because of all the people that are here and all the people that we know. And I say that not lightly, because I've been in a lot of different churches, in a lot of different places. So I want to share, does anyone else have anything else that, anybody who cared for your different stages of your life, or made a real difference in different stages in your life? We've heard about being young, being older, etc. Anybody else?
You said it very well. I was going to say the same thing. I'm very, very grateful to be a member of this church, but especially a member of this class. There are lots of angels without wings in this class. And one of the things that Carol and I keep talking about is Paul Christie has told us two things: that's to write thank you notes and to be there. And this class epitomizes that. They, if you need them, whether it be a meal or a visit or whatever, they're there. And there's just no pleasure for that. Very gratified, grateful.
Ken, I got a card this week from Mary Lou Lindeman, who was a member of this class. And I had sent her one from us with all our signatures on it. And what she said in the card was she really appreciated getting that card with all the class members' names on it. And that she had been a member of this class since 1977, and that it had meant a whole lot to her. So I just thought that's from somebody who's not here today and who can't be here today, but her feelings still about this Sunday school class.
She might not be here physically, but she's here spiritually. And that's the same for people that we've known that aren't with us anymore.
And you see Tom Carter's name on the board, and we prayed for him, and he's here with us today. That's a prayer answer.
Well, I'm very thankful for that, and my thanks go out. I'll tell you, about every Sunday I would sit and wonder what's going on at church and Sunday school class. It's meant so much to me and Gwen. We thoroughly enjoyed and met some mighty fine folks here. Irreplaceable. And you don't know until, my heart goes out to people that don't have anybody like that. Because that's what life is all about. Just getting to know other people, loving them, and being loved back. And I felt it very, very strong. I'm grateful for the doctors, surgeons, and all of that I've been through. And I'm a whole lot better. I'm not 100%, but I feel like I'm about 95%. So I'm ahead of the game. And praise be the Lord.
God bless. I think you truly are an angel that came in our room, so thank you. I'm going to follow up on what both of you said, and that is, you know, and then Kathy said it before she left. I had a teacher of mine at Bellevue Hospital a long time ago. His name was Dr. Jonathan Jaffe. He was a South African who had a photographic memory, and he was amazing. He was a young guy, and he taught me a lot. After 40 years, I wrote him an email, just because I was thinking of him, just because, like you were saying, just had that thought. I wrote him an email, and I said, I just want to thank you for what you gave me, what difference you made in my life as far as helping other people. And I left a voicemail on his phone, and his wife shared it with him and said, and this is what he told me, he said, this is a student of yours from 40 years ago. You have to call him. And he called me, and I had a wonderful conversation with this man that I hadn't seen for 40 years. So sometime this week, take a second in your life to send a message, an email, or a phone call to that chosen person that has made a positive impact and difference in your life, and what it's meant to you, and what that person has offered you, and how they made a difference. So I'd like a little closing prayer, if we might. Please. God of all comfort, remind us to care for one another as you care for us. May we be helped to do whatever is needed and right for both ourselves and others. In Jesus' name, amen.
It's good to see you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,